Hi everyone, my name's Tashi Dorjee, a startup enthusiast, newly dubbed father, and the head of Flex for Australasia at JLL. Today I'm going to be your host for the Unpacking of APAC mini-series. It's an exclusive series at This Week In Coworking, where we're essentially going to look at what makes Australia tick from a future of work, office, and a co-working perspective. Now, a quick word from our sponsors before we get started. OfficeRnD Flex. It's the ultimate platform that helps co-working and flex spaces streamline operations, wow their members, and grow faster. Learn more at officernd.com/flex. Syncaroo. Now, Syncaroo keeps your best people unblocked through managed integrations, profit-protecting automations, and understandable tech guidance. Hop in and learn more at syncaroo.com. Essensys. Essensys is a global provider of software and technology for commercial real estate, helping the world's leading landlords and flex workspace operators deliver seamless digital experiences. Head over to essensys.tech and let them know we sent you. Today we're jumping into the psyche of a hotel owner and investor. We're joined by Gadi Hassin, who's a hospitality professional with over 25 years of experience in hotel management across 5 continents. After leadership roles with the Hyatt, Ritz-Carlton, and Avolo, he became a managing partner at Selina in 2020. Later serving as a global COO, managing 120 locations worldwide. Now as the CEO and co-founder of Helios Hospitality Management, Gadi focuses on experiential hospitality brands for nomadic travelers. So I guess
it's a big watch.
Yeah, it's a big production.
Big clock warning me red.
So you just came from Avola Woolloomooloo?
That's correct.
Yeah, our old watering hole.
Yes. You probably remember that.
Very, very fondly.
Yes, that was one of the first attempts to create a working space really inside hotels, and we're talking about pre-COVID. So when everybody were talking about co-works and so on.
This was a long time ago. Like, for anyone listening, Gadi and I have history because he was actually one of our strategic advisors, and I should have listened to him more back in the day because I was still a green first-time founder when I had my 2-space startup turning restaurants and hotels into co-working spaces. And Avola Woolloomooloo was one of our first hotel partners because you saw the value of trying to foster and create community in there. The design of the space is beautiful.
And it's still serving me till today. I mean, even though we had an office in the building somewhere else, I still prefer to sit in my little pod, call it, and then meeting people outside and in the cafe, and then just it makes it very productive.
Yeah.
Of course, there's still times when the music turns on, and then needs to be more quiet space. But overall, it's been 7 years that I'm coming and going. I've been traveling a lot, as you know. So, and I think one of the nice things about it's not just the space, because people are starting to get used to you coming and using the space.
Right.
So I'll give an example. In one of the time I came, and there was in the pod that I used to sit, there was a reserve sign. So I thought, okay, well, I'll go and sit somewhere else. And then the guys in the lobby in the cafe said to me, "Why are you not sitting in your place?" I said, "Well, there is a reserve." He said, "No, we put it for you because there is a function and we didn't want anyone else to sit there." And I thought that's really, so it's not just having a space, it's having the people to embrace this space and to, and the other part is that, I'm not the only one who comes and work there. And then there is slowly, it's the creation of a community around, and there is a psychologist that works remotely, and there is a contractor that meets his people over there. But it doesn't really matter. The idea is that, the outcome is that people are connecting, and so it's, and besides, and that's what I like. I don't like to sit in an office.
Yeah, me neither.
I like to see people. I like to, it doesn't trouble me, music, as long as it's not, then for me, this is a perfect setup to work from a space that is combining, you see.
It's fascinating to me because even though commercial real estate, as you would have seen, because you're very experienced and have had executive roles in the hotel world, they're starting to say there's the hotelification of commercial real estate. Whether that's happening or not properly is debatable. I see the buzzword being used a lot, but I don't see, honestly, great examples of it happening. because it's really hard to install a sense of hospitality, right? I mean, to all the things that you were talking about, I think some of the earliest great examples of even co-working within hotel lobbies are possible because you've got staff already there servicing the hotel who care about the people who put the reserved sign, you know?
Yeah, you're right. And I think, I mean, I recently was in a meeting in one of the building in the city, and it was a lunch meeting in a little cafe that they have. And they've tried to activate it with music, with a live music,
Right.
but it felt out of context.
Yeah.
It was actually to the point that it felt like disturbing. You know, at lunchtime, when people do a business meeting or so on, you have a live music that overshade you
Yeah.
need to. So I think, and that's something that hotels gradually improving, but there is no doubt that there is no longer just about accommodation in hotels or accommodation or the food and beverage services. Hotels are, people are looking to stay as part of some other benefits that they want. So, you know, the experience is a big part of it. You know, what kind of experience? And when I talk about experience in hotel, you know, in the past we were talking about, I don't know, how the check-in is efficient. So, but that's not the experience we're talking. Is how do you embrace the space to create these social connections, to create engagement, that and to create kind of a programming and a content to the space, because, you know, offices, building, it's walls. It can be as beautiful as you know, I worked at the Ritz-Carlton, beautiful hotels, great view. But to engrave the soul and the vibe, that's a different story.
So different, because when you think about office, it's almost, even though we're doing our best to evolve, people have to go there or used to. So then you're almost working backwards from an incorrect goal because they're being forced to go there. And how do you make that forced journey as a good experience as possible? Whereas when it comes to hotels, the space in itself there, you're designing and thinking about how to activate it with the goal in mind of creating the soul, right? Whereas I think sometimes in office, the goal isn't the soul. The goal is come into the office and work, and then soul is the afterthought. So even earlier, I still remember fondly when I used to work from Mavola Woolloomooloo and some of these other hotels, the music would very purposefully get turned louder at 5 p.m. to be like, okay, it's time to finish work, go to the bar, have a drink.
Yeah.
And we were always looking for ways to activate it, because even if a hotel was 100% occupied, sometimes you wouldn't know it because the public spaces needed a bit of help.
Yeah.
Have you seen this talk of, you know, creating a soul within the space? Have you seen ways that that's evolved over the last even just 3-4 years?
Yeah, I think it's first come from this demand for need, I would say, for social connection.
Yeah.
I think, and that's probably post-COVID, that's rapidly embraced when we were all locked in, and the connection was more virtual, where now people want to meet. So for me, that's what I see with hotels now is the blending the space and being much more flexible to add things like you know, wellness, mindfulness. How do you embrace this? You know, from one side you focus on yourself, but from the other side, how do you facilitate the connectivity between the people? And eventually, that's, I think, what people are coming. It's not the bed, okay? So I'll give you another example. My wife and I recently went to one of the, you know, a beautiful hotel that is kind of a luxury hotel in a regional area. And we arrived around, I think it was on Friday afternoon for a weekend. And we had a great meal. And then what? Not before, not after. You think, okay, well, so we're going back to and they had a beautiful lounge, and with a nice, it was in the winter, so there was a nice wood fire. And I thought, you know, if there would be a live music, if there would be somebody to facilitate a talk, if tomorrow morning you would wake up and walk, and then slowly you're meeting people.
Right.
You know, how many opportunities we have to meet people.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, would I come back? I'm not sure. If I come back just to be by myself, yes, but would I stay long? I'm not sure. It's so I think it's really about creating this experience that is about creating this soul, this vibe, and connectivity with people. You probably know we have hotels in Thailand, in Phuket. So we took a 5 stars resort, and we added small rooms that had very large villas and apartment style and so on. And we added small rooms, and we even added, some community room, and we added a room for people, well, a lounge for people to connect, and then a DJ session and so on. And you see that people are actually coming, and they're not talking about the service. The service, it's they take for granted that the service in Thailand is amazing and people are nice and friendly and so on. But their main comment is, oh, we managed to meet so many people and we extended the stay because of this.
Right.
So I think slowly you see people embracing the connection, wants the social connectivity, wants this vibe and soul that is really missing in the spaces of office and so on.
Yeah.
And hotels are working hard to create this content to be more flexible, to create this programming, and it's not an easy things to do. So some hotels are doing it more successfully than others, but in general, I think the shift is absolutely.
Well, I think hotels are the North Star for commercial real estate because the infrastructure of a hotel supports these experiments, right? It's literally designed, of course, you stay there and everything, but the staff there are to service the guest experience from top to bottom, So if you're going to try and figure out ways how to get them to extend their stay, provide social connection, soul, you've got it. Commercial real estate, you don't. You've got a concierge, you've got a facilities manager, a property manager. That's a big reason why. And yes, you've got budget to activate it, but they don't take it to the same seriousness as a hotel, right? Because frankly, when you even think about it, I genuinely think it's because the hotel model, the guests stay a night or two, sometimes a week, and you have to provide such a great experience that they come back, not just every month, but maybe there's more touch points. Whereas in commercial real estate, and it's changing now, once someone signs a lease, they're in there for 7 years. So there's a less of a requirement to a degree to fight for your income, right? To put it loosely. And I think, the examples I've seen of hospitality being installed within a commercial real estate asset without flex or co-working, just the concierge, even with some hotel operators in the market, you get them remembering your name, you get a hi, hello, you get maybe some surprise and delight, but that's it.
So I'll tell you on this, I think, one of the things and we saw it and we tested it and it's proved right.
Yeah.
To increase the average rate of hotels and the stay
rate and the spend
is all those things, the activation. Now think on a real estate. Okay, so people come and rent, but if you can get a higher rent because the building is more in desire, for tenants, then it's not just per square meter. This is 500 per square meter, and over there is 520. If you can get more because there is more demand for the building. So that's probably...
And I think that's why flex and co-working has become more popular over the last couple of years because owners who realize that the activation and that serviceability will help, they can't do it on their own. So it's almost like an operator, like a flex or co-working is the Trojan horse of suddenly you get 2-3 on-site staff people or even 1-2, added budget, a business, and they help activate and bring people together and provide that experience. Because without that, you have limited budget and people to facilitate that. You may promise it, because I see a lot of examples where a landlord might spend a lot of money on a lobby design, but it might as well be an IKEA showroom. It's just furniture, it's lifeless, looks good, and everyone's excited when it launches, but you go there and it's empty. So there's almost like this element of either who's going to activate it, or is there a third party out there, even if you don't want to put a flex operator in there, that has a marketplace of community and people in the area that can come and use it. And then there's an element of fear of missing out, FOMO, because all the tenants come down going, oh, this is a cool buzz, this is great, we'll come use it. Like earlier you said, the definition of hospitality for hotels changed very early on from the check-in experience and stuff to all of what's the soul. And sorry everyone if you've already heard me use this analogy, the show reference, if you've listened to one of the other podcasts on this series, but there's a show called The Bear. Do you know The Bear? Where and there's the chefs and the cooking, and there's the cousin Richie who was looking for his purpose, but he becomes a really great host and server. And one thing that he would not budge on, annoyingly so towards the end after he went and trade in these, 5-star Michelin restaurants, was if it's someone's birthday, we're going to do something special. If someone wanted to come to this city and we found out they missed out on eating at that pizza place that they really wanted to try, even though they're in our fine dining restaurant, someone will go out, buy a pizza, and we'll create a fine dining version of it. So it's almost that surprise and delight element, which they really showcased in that show, to me, is what hospitality really is, and not the, hi, how you doing, Fred? Your coffee was a cappuccino, right? Cool, because you get that at every barista now.
So it's true. I think the next level is really how you personalize the service. And I gave this actually as an example, as a great example.
The reserve,
Exactly. But I can give another example where, I come every morning and I order a croissant and a coffee, and they're always the same.
Yeah.
And I always have somebody, that keep asking more questions. Man, it's the same thing. No, I don't want it toasted. No, I want it with almond milk. It's really not easy to find the balance. But I think, look, as I said, hotels are investing a lot of effort of embracing this behavioral change.
Yeah.
And that's something that, as said, people are no longer just looking for, come and stay in a room and have a massage and have a meal. That goes far beyond this. And people are looking also to combine this. I mean, it's no longer just go on a weekend. I can go for a whole week and work from a place. So, and that's another thing that hotels are mindful of it. Not always successful. Not everybody doing it on the right way. But those who's doing it successfully are creating this space where you can work and be productive. So, and I'm not talking about just working from a room, but I'm talking about having a pause, having calls, having a place that you can take calls or meeting rooms, and this flexibility is really crucial, and it creates people are traveling now for longer time. It's and it's created this ability to extend the stay for people. I think these changes are making. Post-COVID, we saw it much more where people went to regional and work from there. And the choice and the ability to work from everywhere now, it's not just COVID is because we have a laptop, and that's all we need to connect with people and to do our job. So we can do it from home. So blurring the space and the barriers now, it's something that is ongoing.
So the stuff that you've seen, if you could take inspiration from what you do in your hotels or have done, and apply it to a commercial asset, like even in this building that we have, when you walked in, there was this concierge, there's a cafe there. Yeah. Surely it could be done better.
Yeah.
Like what are some simple low-hanging things or long-term things that you think office culture should really adapt, even if it might be difficult? Let's forget the operational complications for now. What would you like to see in an asset?
So I think I'll take it to hotels. You used to go big hotels and you see a massive lobby, and really it's kind of a big open space. Slowly you start to see how people are carving it out and making it more intimate place. So here, the first thing that I thought it's so big. Yeah, it's very hard to connect people. Each one will go and have a space.
So there's a trend of even the hotels going big to more intentional design.
So so I think that's
fascinating, because like in commercial real estate, sometimes they're like, big, we want big.
But it's big. Actually, it's so unproductive to make a social connection.
Yeah.
It's not productive to ever. So there is a big lobby, high ceiling. Imagine you have a call. How do you do this without disturbing somebody else? The echo, the size doesn't actually do any favor. So I think the ability to
size doesn't matter. Everyone, you hear that?
I didn't want to, but yes. So it's really how do you divide the space? How do you create opportunities to create?
That makes so much sense. But I mean, it's so validating here you say it because you come from this world, right? So when you break it up, are there certain like experiences or sections that you see are must-haves within hotel, like some place to work and do calls, like food and beverage or wellness, or is it as simple as just having different areas for different types of people to dwell in?
So it's not so much different areas, and again goes back to the flexibility because it's different areas, different time of the day, right? There is
that's interesting too. You're catering for
and hotels being limited space, they want to make sure that, you utilize things. You can use it for a meeting room, or you can use it for a yoga space, or you can use it as a events space. So I think it's really in terms of designing the place is making sure you don't or you embrace the ability for people to connect.
Right.
You embrace the ability to create this soul or energy, and in a place that is big, it's just harder to create a soul and energy, right?
And I think some of that can be facilitated through furniture in a very so a really simple example for me, and whether this can be scaled or not, but at the JLL Sydney office that I showed you like last month or something. Yes, there's a lot of loose furniture. Intentionally, there's some couch areas like this where it's obvious it's for an intimate conversation with a nice view of the Harbour Bridge. There's scattered seating, but after speaking to the design team, very intentionally no power, so people don't sit there and dwell too long because it's more for accidental collisions and conversations. But then there's a table I always sit at notoriously, to the point where people find it quite annoying, but I love it, where it's almost like a yum cha, the Chinese lunch, the big round table. It's like if you sit there, you're inviting someone else to sit down there with you, right? So it's like that table to me is like a communal table. But it's funny, I sit there, and because I've sat there, suddenly it feels like I've reserved 12 seats. No one wants to sit there with me. They're like,
it depends. So it depends how busy is the place. But I'll take you to lounges in the airport, right? If you sit on the table, usually you don't. Nobody comes and talk to you. If you sit in a communal tables, you can start and have a conversation. So
maybe it's my fault because I've got my laptop out and I'm clearly in deep work. But I don't mind if people. It's almost like there needs to be a sign there, as simple as it is. It's like just come sit, or I don't know.
Yes. So and that goes also to this role of community manager, or people who facilitate the connectivity, and I think that's important. In hotels, you do have this. I mean, not as there are hotels or chains that embracing this community or experience manager, and I think that's probably another way to go. I mean, some calling it in whatever guest services and so on, but the ability to connect between people, and I think we spoke about it when we were talking about Two Space back then, is to we work from the same space, but if somebody will come and say, hey, this one is a designer and you're an architect, somebody that knows the background, you see it, so that's something that can.
And I think the technology also helps there. So the Two Space play back then, or the vision was, and we started building it, was aside from having this network of spaces on the app, you could see the different users, their profiles, connect with them. And we had a bunch of relationships actually spawned from that, romantic, including that's how I met my wife. And now we have a son. But then also some startups that joined, right? Where a founder met a co-founder, and now they have $100 million startup. Some really cool stuff.
It reminds me, I was traveling with Selena in South America, and I arrived to, I think it was Buenos Aires in Argentina, and there was a guy so I went and worked for him, co-worked for a few hours, and there was a guy that worked there, and he was, we started to chat. And it was very clear he's in a design space, so started to chat, and he was from New York, and he said, I'm traveling, I left home 7 months ago, and I'm traveling with my motorbike, and I'm stopping in Selina,
That's a true digital nomad,
a true
right?
digital nomad. And then I said, oh, that's cool. And I said, one of the things that I like about your hotels is that they know I connect from one place to another, and said, look, I have a motorbike. So,
Right.
and it's a fancy motorbike. I need a place to secure it. And when I arrived, I can't remember where it was. He arrived to a place, and somebody hooked him in
Right.
the hotel. Somebody hooked him with another motorbike, another guy that traveled on a motorbike. So there
Got
was
it.
another,
There's that,
and I think they've done the whole Patonga
Oh, cool.
chain. So I think the ability to connect between people and to facilitate this social interaction makes a huge impact. And then people tell the story. Now you talk about the marketing part where, people tells the story. And again, they won't tell about, so the food was nice. I mean, the service was great, yes. But if you have a story to tell, is about the vibe, the energy, and the connectivity that you had with other people. I'm looking, for example, my parents-in-law traveled, I think a few years ago, they went to a cruise on I think it's called North Star. So it's a high-end yacht with, I think, only 30 cabins or so on. It's like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And since then, they're returning, but they're actually returning with some of those people that they met on board. So they created, they're on their 70s. They created now for themselves another social circles. They went now to Japan with those guys. So nothing to do with, so I think the ability to create new social circles, it's makes a very big impact.
And would that be your key value proposition to this growing demographic of young professionals?
So for sure. I mean, this is what, so the company we established is Helios is all about that. Embracing the digital nomads, travel, and looking at their needs. So what they need is much more than a room. They need a space to work, and they need a space to work, by the way, because they're traveling so much. They're working in different time zones, so they can't work on a 9 to 5. They need a 24 hours place to work, and that means also having other services throughout the time. And they want to do something. They want to have breaks, and they want to have whatever, a yoga session, a walk, a DJ session, and things that are more than stay, work. That's what it says, stay, work, play.
Yeah, you know what? Your point around the value proposition of the connectivity between your venues and helping the motorbike and understanding that customer, I think a very simple way a commercial real estate owner could implement something like that, and this again has to be via a hotel partner or whatever, is a very simple example is if, imagine I travel, right, and I go visit an office or a co-working space or whatever in a building, and I go there intentionally to have a meeting, but then I want to take the client out for dinner, right? Rather than have to worry about where am I going to take them for dinner, have them book. Imagine if the concierge who's meeting me for that building to facilitate that meeting has like 3 venues under their partnership, book it all, send it. That person communicates with that restaurateur. They know my name, they know the guest's name, it's all seamless. And then even maybe a taxi or a service back to the airport, partnership with the airline, I don't know, all. And then it's almost like, could you imagine a world, and much more possible in hotels than commercial real estate, which is why I think the partnership helps commercial real estate cheat a bit by piggybacking off the hotel partners. The business traveler doing all of that, and having that connectivity. Because I do see, without naming names, have looked at certain large hotel brands, no longer just looking at co-working within their lobby, but putting a floor of a co-working business in there, whether they white label it and do it themselves or they partner with someone else to offset the risk, and then the rest of those rooms. But then that's very intentional. These are high-end ones to target the business traveler, to be like, you stay with us, you go down there, you've got your bookable rooms, you've got a business community that has 2-3 headcount servicing it on top of our hotel staff. That's why you stay with us, to the story.
So that's another thing that's really we used to with Selina. So the understanding that people don't come, they don't necessarily need the whole day. They're not coming every day for a few hours. When you're travelers, you need 3 hours, you need 4 hours, you need 2 hours. But you need it in a productive space. You can't just sit in the lobby and having a call, or the chair is not, because it's a lounge.
Yeah.
So I think having this dedicated floor, and we literally had it in every place, whether it's a floor or an area that is a co-work. And in this co-work, you had somebody that work in the co-work, part of the service, and
like a community manager or
correct.
something.
And then you had a pods where you could have calls. Those things hotels didn't used to do, and many are not doing it. But those who are embracing it, doing it well, because it comes from their clientele. That's their.
It's hard to justify it if you don't believe in it, because I suppose the opportunity cost of putting a shit ton of rooms on that floor is quite high.
It is true many times, but again, it comes to how do you utilize space. You don't have to have a huge space. But if you think on the terms of, I'll put more rooms into it. You want.
Are you going to have occupancy? Are people going to buy the room?
Correct.
Right.
That's another thing. So how do you bring having no hotels run 100% occupancy? So it's really about the times that if you can create activations and make people come and stay because you facilitate it, because you have a better space. So that's
well, funnily enough, if commercial real estate keeps saying we're being hotelified, instead of just taking, using that as an excuse to sell the dream to your tenants, if you're really hotelifying your building, and within the hotel space that is already very hospitality orientated and room orientated, they're already removing floors of rooms, which make a ton of money to provide a floor of amenity or co-working. Then it's very organically, if you're going to borrow from that space, some buildings, commercial real estate already realize we need to give up a floor or two of guaranteed rent to flex or co-working or an amenity under a management agreement. It's already happening. But I would argue the money that you could make off a room of floors eclipses the money you could make off a rent equivalent within a commercial building versus putting co-working in each of them. So if you want to spew hotelification, you should already be ready to give up a floor to make sure that the occupancy of your building is full, which helps guarantee the valuation.
Again, of course, it depends on the location, on the demand. But
of course.
But for sure, I don't see it as a waste of space. I see it as a very productive space that embraces why people would.
So when you buy hotels or you manage them, and we've got to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So like closing thought, how do you justify within your white paper or your due diligence putting aside X amount of space for this? Do you say it'll boost occupancy? Is there a line item in your modeling saying?
It's a very good question, and I'll go back to an example that we had. We in Phuket we had a beautiful villa with a private pool, and 2 bedroom, and on the beach. And the thought was, we're going to turn it, a 300 square meter, we're going to turn it into a co-work space. And, there was a lot of, we're selling this villa in $1,000. And then we looked how many times, what's the occupancy of a villa in this type, right? There's seasonality and so on. So at start, we said, okay, well, we'll keep the 2 rooms above, the 2 bedrooms that have facilities, and we'll just take the lobby and we create another entrance to the room. So we took, instead of the 300 square meter, we've done 200 square meter. Very quickly, we realized we need these rooms as well, because the demand was just high. I mean, it's such a cool place. You have a private pool. You have
now a place to work.
A place to work. It's so cool. So when we've done, and we keep checking it again and again, how much, because we had another villa next door that generate X money, and we see how much the co-work generate. And that's without even considering the fact that people come and stay in the hotel, just the revenue from that space. So without considering the fact that they're buying food, you bring people from outside, they're buying food, or people. And that's, so I think you do need to do this exercise. You need to test it. But don't hesitate to make bold decision.
Well,
like
hopefully that's given some precedent now for future. You can look at that case study and be like, it's worked here. So it
And
helps
that's
with
exactly.
thinking.
I mean, we're presenting this case
Yeah,
study
good.
when we look on this. Said, okay, well, because who the hell would think to take a suite,
All right,
villa
well-
on the beach and turn it into a co-work?
All this talk of villa and beaches, and my wife and I are
Make you
watching.
feel like-
Yeah, well, we're watching the show White Lotus season 3. And so when you said Thailand as well, I was like, we want to go to Thailand now. Do you see a boost in occupancy when those
Of
shows?
course, there's no question. The rates went up. There's no question about it.
That's so good. Surely when you'd think, I don't know if there's a hotel producer behind that in Thailand, like to help finance those shows. Surely Netflix or something, if they know they've got a banger show, like the next season of White Lotus, if I was a producer, we're going to do this one in Bali or somewhere else.
Oh, for sure.
Go
And
find
you'll
some
get
funding.
sponsored by the government, by the tourism board, of course.
They should do that because it's irrefutable. Gadi, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
You're an amazing storyteller. I was visualizing you and your wife eating at that hotel when you were telling that story and going, what are we going to do now? Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Cool.
That was great, man.